Welcome to Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Michael Cohen. We've got a lot to discuss. Of course, the breaking news: California Senator Alex Padilla was assaulted, attacked, beaten by Donald Trump's Gestapo wearing FBI outfits. I guess technically they're FBI and DHS agents. The cosplay dog killer, Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, was holding a press conference in downtown Los Angeles at the FBI headquarters. In her press conference, she was speaking like a coup leader. What she was saying is, I am here to liberate Los Angeles from the Marxists and communists who have attacked. This is what she said, I'm now your leader. The liberation is here, and I'm not leaving until I liberate this city and this state of all of your politicians. That was, I'll pull up the clip in a little bit and show you her speech.
Somewhat delusional, Ben?
Delusional, fascist, cosplay, and it's the worst of all world. I mean, you have the fascism there, clear, unadulterated fascism. And then you also have the kind of cosplay fascism, which then leads to the international fascist regimes looking at this and like laughing at it and mocking it, and our allies just horrified at what the hell they're seeing. So you have California Senator Alex Padilla, who I've had on a number of times, including earlier this week, where he was saying, look, I'm going to stand up for this state. And he showed up in his city, in his state. He's actually from LA also, but where he is a senator, a United States senator. And they were like not letting him in the room. Then he walked in the room, identified himself as a United States senator, as Alex Padilla, was trying to ask a question. And the DHS FBI agents grabbed him, ripped him, started beating him, threw him onto the ground. He identified himself. I am Senator Padilla. I'm a United States senator.
Hey, Ben, I got a question for you. I got a question for you and our brigaders here. Why didn't Kristi Noem identify him? You know, that was the one thing I was waiting to see. She had an opportunity to do the right thing and to actually look good, right? Imagine if when they were starting to manhandle him, had she turned around and she said to the agents, slow down, guys. This is Alex Padilla. He is a sitting United States senator from this state, right? Let him ask his question. Let him, try to tie me up in terms of some sort of a answer or a comment. Instead, she sat back and watched the beating, right? She watched the cosplay of this Third Reich all over again here in the United States. Instead of standing up and saying, wait, that's a United States sitting senator. I thought she would probably do that because I've seen Democrats do that in the past. I would have expected her to do that as well.
She shot and killed her dog. That didn't need to be shot and killed. And then she bragged about shooting and killing her dog. And she wants to destroy FEMA. She does cosplay. She dresses up in outfits and wears different hats and pretends and holds guns the way guns shouldn't be held. She doesn't know how to hold semi-automatic weapons. She like points them at people. It again, as I said, like it's fascism, but it's also packaged in the word kakistocracy. You know, I like it, but lots of people don't know what it means, but like just idiocy. And you watch this and it's heartbreaking. It's gross. And at this point, the Trump regime, they've arrested or they've detained a United States senator, a labor leader in David Huerta, a mayor in the Newark mayor, a congresswoman, a judge. Donald Trump's holding a dictator parade for himself on Saturday. We have him and Kristi Noem talking about liberating the state of California and liberating Los Angeles. They've made up an entire fake pretext to federalize the National Guard. There are more United States military troops in Los Angeles than there are in Iraq and Syria right now in the United States, in California, turning the United States military against United States citizens and against migrants living in the United States. You know, Cohen, with respect to the National Guard, Donald Trump has not paid them. He's not authorized their health care yet because he did this in just such a mess. He's not provided supplies for them, food or pillows or bed. They're sleeping on the floor.
Sleeping on the floor inside the federal building. But Ben, you know, you're a California guy, and I sort of want to just throw something to you here. So the LA County District Attorney, a gentleman by the name of Nate Hochman, he delivered, as I explained in my Substack post that you can find on actually the Midas Touch Network, delivered the truth. And he delivered it, as I claimed, with surgical precision. What he did is he used numbers. You know, you've heard me say this before, Ben, and to our brigaders, numbers don't lie, people do. When he turned around and he said, there's 11 million people in LA, 11 million. 400 were detained, considered agitators, vandals, etc. Now, I am 100% opposed to anyone throwing anything at an officer, at somebody in uniform. I don't care if it's ICE. I don't care if it's FBI. I don't care if it's LAPD. You want to stand there with a sign, stand there with a sign. Personally, I ask people, get off the highways, get off the roads, stand on the sidewalk, stand in the park. You know, you don't have to block traffic. And to those that ended up graffitiing the sides of buildings, it doesn't make any sense. But here's what Nate Hochman turned around and said, that the number of individuals who are involved in some form of vandalism or unrest amounted to, and get a load of this, it's important, 0.0036. So as I wrote, do the math, my friends, 99.99% of Angelenos haven't done a fucking thing wrong. They did absolutely nothing wrong. They exercised their First Amendment constitutional right to protest. And I'm going to tell you the part, Ben, that I really would like to hear from you on. My question is, as stated by Trump himself, even though he claimed he hasn't heard of any protests that are going to be taking place on his birthday / military parade for the 250th anniversary of the Army. But if there are protesters, they are going to be met with big repercussions, with big penalties. What do you make of that, Ben? You think that they're now going to go to places like New York, Philadelphia, all the 1,800 different protests under this No Kings rally that's going to take place on Saturday?
I think that whether it happens on Saturday or in the coming days and weeks, I believe that they're going to place the United States military. It's what I said on Tuesday, in all of the United States major cities. When you walk around in the cities, I think you're going to see National Guard, Marines who are stationed all throughout blue cities. I think that in the red states, like we see with Governor Abbott, we literally said this, you and I, on our last episode, and I think we'll see this with Ron DeSantis in Florida. The red state governors will voluntarily call up the National Guard to send the National Guard into the cities. You know, if you look in Texas, for example, in San Antonio, we saw their mayor, their police chief, same thing in LA, saying, this is entirely unnecessary. You're to the governor. Why are you escalating a situation with the National Guard? We haven't even in terms of our escalation, we're not even anywhere near where we would call in the National Guard. So what are you doing? Fascism has hit our shores. It is here. And you and I have always been saying this, that this is not a democracy in the United States. We live under an authoritarian regime. If we saw any of these things taking place, imagine if what Trump is doing, what, say, Prime Minister Carney was doing what Trump was doing, and you saw them arresting senators and judges and Congress members and mayors and putting their army into cities. It is no different than what we've seen in Iran in the revolution. It's no different than what we see the way Russia looks right now. This is an authoritarian.
North Korea, Hungary, I mean, Saudi Arabia.
And in many ways, you can make an argument on an authoritarian scale that the United States is up there right with Russia, maybe more authoritarian even than Hungary, maybe even more authoritarian than some of these other countries that we've viewed as such. And then you layer on top of that the idiocracy. So Cohen, the short answer is, do I think on the No Kings protest, which the Midas Touch is the main, just by the way, we're the main news distributor. We're embedded with all of the groups, whether it's Indivisible, 5051, Move On. We're there with every group. We're boots on the ground, and we're going to be covering it every day. We're going to have a live stream of everything that's going on, be the eyes and ears. It's one of the reasons I wanted to build this network, and we're so close to 5 million subscribers here as well. But Cohen, that's coming. The first step was LA, because you then have a domino effect. Other cities, you start to see peaceful protests. Mm-hmm. Then you start to see the clamping down on them, and then Trump moves the troops there. Let me give you this one other data point.
Can I ask you a quick question? While because as the main outlet for this No Kings protest, which is supposed to exceed over 2,000 individual protests, I intended on, and I still intend to be at the New York event. One thing that you have made crystal clear in your daily Substack posts and elsewhere is that Midas Touch Network, yourself, your brothers, and so on, are all in the crosshair of the dear leader, right, of our president. Well, what happens if he starts targeting those people who will be there at these various protests on the Midas link, basically providing, live feed and commentary, which is what I was planning on doing in New York with people who are there, at the event, and getting their take. Where are they from? Tell us what your thoughts are, etc. Right? Interviewing the crowd. What happens if they're monitoring that as well, and then they start going after folks? Because that's what they would do in an authoritarian regime. And my fear, right, is that not only is that going to take place, but there's going to be quite a few clashes that are going to be taking place with MAGA supporters. This is, I just truly hope that peaceful protest is allowed to occur and it doesn't ultimately become a shit show, because Trump weaponizes that. When, for example, the 400 individuals that have been arrested in LA, again, using Hochman's numbers, it is 0.0036%. Well, when you listen to the Republicans, when you listen to Caroline Leavitt, when you listen to Trump and others start talking about the number of bad actors at these protests, he uses that 400 as if that 400 is the denominator, meaning, which is, of course, what he is saying, that LA is burning, very much like what took place with the wildfires, that there is looting and vandalism, the whole place But thanks to him and sending in the military, despite the fact they're inside of a building, mostly sleeping on each other or on their beds, thanks to him, LA has been saved. As an LA resident yourself, Ben, share with us what's really going on there.
Donald Trump is far from saving LA. We literally have just the National Guard who have been federalized, just kind of like 100 of them or so, or 200, positioned around one of the federal buildings, and they got others sleeping on the floor. So he's like activated or federalized a combination of 4,000 to 5,000 National Guard and Marines when you add them all up together. But they don't know what to do with them. Like there's no plan there. So now the LAPD has to also focus on figuring out, like we've had the LAPD chief say, we really don't know what they're even doing or why they're here or like what their role is. LAPD is clearly capable of handling it. All it's done is cause tensions to escalate as military equipment, as like tanks and Humvees are driving through LA and people are getting angry. Like, why are you sending the military, into Los Angeles? The footage here is in DC as Donald Trump's getting ready for the military parade there in DC. But Donald Trump said the National Guard federalized saved the day, Cohen, before the National Guard even arrived in Los Angeles. Like they weren't even sent there. And he said,
well, the fear of them arriving, Ben.
That's what did it. Of course, that's what did it. And in LA, when you talk about that number, 0.003% of people have actually engaged in crimes. In LA, the protests, which are almost all peaceful, you've got people singing "This Little Light of Mine, I'm gonna," people dancing. There are agitators. That is true. That's identified by that 300 to 400 number. We're talking about a tiny area in downtown Los Angeles, so small that most people who actually live in downtown Los Angeles don't even see where that's going on. Like most people who are living in downtown LA, and LA is sprawling. There's the city of LA. Then there's the broader county of LA. This is confined to the smallest of smallest areas. And you're sending the United States military in. And Cohen, I want to go back to what Kristi Noem said. And I want to show people what happened with Padilla. I'm sure they've seen the video on our YouTube channel by now as well. But Kristi Noem's language before Padilla asked the question and then he was thrown down, that's not being talked about enough, because she said, like literally as though she just did a coup, I'm here to liberate the city. This is a liberation operation. Listen to her language. It's sick. Here, play this clip.
Sustain and increase our operations in this city. We are not going away. We are staying here to liberate this city from the socialist and the burdensome leadership that this governor and that this mayor have placed on this country and what they have tried to insert into this city. So I want to say thank you to every single person that has been able to do this. Also, I want to talk.
So
I don't know about you, Ben, but I feel America's great again. I mean, thanks to people like, Puppy Killer Barbie and Bullshit Barbie and the rest of them. I mean, I feel so much better now. I really believe that America's on its way to being great again.
Let me show everybody what went down with Padilla.
I mean, I hope everybody feels the same way that I do.
I wanted to show that first clip though, and hear, because she said, I'm here to liberate this city and this state from its whatever communist leadership, whatever crazy thing she said.
Socialist.
Padilla, the senator, is there. That would be inappropriate. Conducting oversight. That's literally his job. He's a federal official, the top one in California, as a senator in a federal building, trying to ask a question after you have the Department of Homeland Security Secretary acting like she just committed a coup. That was a coup speech. Like the speech that she gave there, is what it looks like when a military regime takes over, like in a banana republic, and they give it. They have their military around them, right? The city has been liberated. There is new leadership here. We are not going away. Stay calm. The military is now in. It was that kind of speech.
Yeah.
So he's asking the question. You saw him try to ask. He didn't lunge at her. He didn't. And now I want you to watch Padilla, because he clearly identifies himself as I'm a senator. She then claims that they stopped trying to handcuff him the moment he identified who he was. But to your point, he's the senator. The FBI should know who he is.
They did handcuff him. They pulled him to the ground outside. They didn't handcuff him inside the hearing. They handcuffed him outside in the hallway.
And then they told him to shut off the camera. You can't take video footage. Let's watch what went down. Here,
could you imagine they're telling a sitting senator, right, in a federal building, that you can't take a photo, that you can't videotape the sitting senator of that state, that they can't videotape in a federal building? I mean, this is bad shit. Sorry, Ben, go ahead. Let's play that.
Let's play the clip.
Exaggerating and embellishing. Sir, hands up. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the secretary, because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your
I also want to
hands off.
How many of our ICE agents have been docked for doing their duty?
On the ground. Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back.
If you don't my hands, go ahead, put them behind my back.
All right, cool.
One hand, lay flat, lay flat.
Other hand, sir. Other hand.
There's no recording allowed out here.
I do not know.
There's no recording allowed out here per FBI rights for the building.
So what, I'm sorry?
There's no recording allowed out here.
That's my boss. I have to
There's no
record
recording
everything
allowed
for
out
us.
here. You can record. There's no recording allowed out here.
I'm not a member
There's
of
no
this.
recording allowed.
I understand that, sir, but
Could you imagine that, standing in front to impede
the taping of a United States senator?
his boss? But he identified, that is my boss on the ground. He said, he goes, I am permitted to record. That is my boss. I'm permitted. And they're turning, there's no recording in this building. I mean, it's really amazing. They're making up laws as they're twisting the wrist. By the way, I've had that done to me, and I can tell you, it fucking hurts. You know, when they take your wrist and they bend it backwards in order to put those cuffs on you. I don't know who these guys actually are. Are they federal marshals? Are they ICE? Are they her secret security detail? Who are these guys? Has anybody identified who they are?
They seem to be a combination of FBI and other DHS agents, around her. They're at the FBI headquarters. Like, you can see some people in the video with the jacket that says FBI. I think the important point also, though, to point out is this, Cohen. If they did that to a sitting United States senator asking a question, think about how they're treating everybody else. That's a United States senator. So if they're arresting or detaining United States senators, mayors, Congress members, labor leaders, you go down the list, what they're doing with these ICE raids, when they're going after migrants with no criminal history, when they're going after American citizens, when they're going after people, they are untethered from the law. And I want to share this with you as well, and to the Beatdown Brigaders. All of this was going on. Donald Trump gave a speech in front of the 82nd Airborne Army unit, and he was using the language as well with the Army behind him. We now know as well from the reporting by military.com that at this base in Fort Bragg, they were picking the soldiers who they did a survey. And so if you said that you were a Republican and that you supported Donald Trump, you were picked to be there. So they gave a political test. Then they brought in a MAGA vendor that was selling, I'm not making this up, like fake Donald Trump cards called white privilege cards. And it says white privilege trumps everything else with Trump's face on it. So the soldiers were buying Trump.
I mean, look, I'm so blown, and I'm so blown away at all of this nonsense. To be honest, I just have one point I want to bring up here. I also read that they are in the process of considering. Imagine this: deputizing the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers.
Yep.
Can you just include into this, what do you think ends up happening when you end up with a Proud Boy or a January 6er or an Oath Keeper like a Enrique Tarrio? You deputize him to go ahead and to put, for example, your hands behind your back because you're asking a question at a rally or at a protest. Could you imagine what's going to happen to individuals then? Because these guys think it's really cool to beat the shit out of anybody that they can.
And you know what? This is what I want to talk about too. Let's play the clip in front of the 82nd Air Force or the 82nd Airborne Division, Army, United States Army at Fort Bragg. You'll see Donald Trump talking about liberating Los Angeles to them. Let's play this clip.
In many of the countries of Europe, they don't like it when I say it, but I'll say it loudly and clearly. They better do something before it's too late. Very simply, we will liberate Los Angeles and make it free, clean, and safe again. It's happening very quickly. The one big, beautiful bill, you've heard about it. We call it the one big, I was on one of the television shows, I think, Deface the Nation. Ladies and gentlemen, Deface the Nation.
Speaking in front of the military, speaking in front of the United States Army, calling face the nation, deface the nation, with the military in the background, talking about liberating a United States city, then sending the Homeland Security Secretary and saying, I'm here for the liberation. And then the fact that, it is a testament to the fact that in LA we are very peaceful people by nature, that we're fortunate that because they're doing everything they can to try to provoke. Just think about audience and listeners. What if somebody walked into your house, opened the door, and started going through your refrigerator and started going into your bedroom, and you said, who are you? Why are you in my house? And they said, I'm here to liberate your house. I'm here for liberation.
I'm here to liberate your groceries.
I'm here to liberate everything. This is a liberation. And oh, by the way, I live in the next city. Your house and your neighborhood is shitty. So I'm here to make it nicer. Obviously, it's a simplistic example, but when you start sending troops into a very proud, into a very proud city, your intent is to cause escalation. And I'll say this about California. California has the fourth largest GDP, not in the United States, in the world. If California was a country, it would have the fourth largest GDP. And the strength of California is its diversity. That's one of the reasons that California is able to subsidize all of the red states. You know how Donald Trump says the United States is subsidizing Canada? It isn't. Donald Trump doesn't understand what a trade deficit is or how the trade deficit even works, and that there really isn't even a trade deficit with Canada when you take out a few aspects like energy. But I'll tell you who does subsidize who. California subsidizes the red states. The red states would be failed entities. If you already look at their statistics, highest mortality rates, worst education, worst standard of living, highest drug rates, homicide rates and crime rates and violent crime rates that are 2x, 3x, 5x what it is in California. That is the reality. And those states don't exist unless California funds them. And what does California get in return for funding the red states, who are taker states, who act like leeches. And by the way, I like the red states, but their Republican governors are often, mooching off of California. It is what it is. They then basically say, topple it, take it over, because they're jealous of it too. They want to take it over and they want to run it and ruin it the way Donald Trump's ruining the United States of America.
And can I say something? Do you know how you know that what Ben is saying is 100% accurate, that Californians are basically peaceful, loving Americans? Nothing really terrible happened. Oh my God, a car was lit on fire. By the way, we don't know if it was lit by protesters or it was lit by those flashbang grenades that were being thrown at the protesters, because they are actually on fire. You catch that onto somebody's tire and the thing's going to go up. But imagine, this is what I do believe that Trump, Kristi Noem, and others want to see. They want to see the violence. They want to see a protester grab a firearm and go after the police officer. They want to see a shootout. They want this to become violent, because if it becomes violent, it validates everything that they're doing. You see, when you send in the military, when you send in the Marines, they're fucking tough guys. When you send in the National Guard, when you have the LAPD there and someone who could handle this on their own, but Trump, with Kristi Noem and others, they bring in the reinforcements that shouldn't be there. And then this starts to get ugly. And then they start knocking down house doors and they start pulling people out, and it turns into a gunfight. That validates what Trump is saying. And that's why I kept saying on TV, and I said with Ben on Beatdown on Tuesday, and I say it on my podcast, and I say it on our Substacks, and so does Ben and everybody else who has half a brain. Just be peaceful. Hold up your signs. Protest, right? Get off the streets. Don't get involved with the vandalism and the other bullshit, right? Because that is 0.0036%. I can't repeat that enough. It's not true. And please, the most important, because there are people who are turning around and saying, those motherfuckers come into my house, there's going to be a problem. Slow down. Yeah. Let's not give him the fuel, the oxygen that he needs in order to make this thing what they want it to be. And that is an all-in-all out blitz on America.
Yeah, absolutely. So, on personal news, I took the epidural earlier today, I've been able to sit on the chair now for about a half. If people have been noticing, I've been doing all of the shows sitting on a knee. So I've been able to make it through a half hour, but I need to walk it off. I need to walk right now. I want to take a quick break. We'll be right back to cover more news. But it was that half hour though was sitting on the chair was a milestone. I want to remind everybody to subscribe to @The Michael Cohen Show YouTube. Go to @The Michael Cohen Show YouTube. Subscribe to the Mea Culpa audio podcast wherever podcasts are available. Go to the Mea Culpa audio podcast, and also check out Cohen's Substack. It's a great Substack. Just search Michael Cohen and check out our Substack. Next week, we're going to do the Patreon, assuming this epidural kicks in and it's good because I've been able to sit. Patreon.com/political beatdown, patreon.com/political beatdown. Check it out. Next week, we'll be able to do it. I'm going to take a quick stretch. We're going to come back. We got a lot more to discuss what's been going on Capitol Hill. Everything Trump touches dies, or he makes a complete and total mess. Capitol Hill has been an utter mess today. We'll chat about that. Gavin Newsom fighting back. I think this is the Gavin Newsom that everybody's been waiting for. We'll talk about that and more. Let's take our first and only quick break of the show.
When your car breaks down, you take it to a mechanic with no hesitation. I mean, you need it, and it's not something most guys can fix themselves. Look, I know I can't, and men should think the exact same way about ED. But the reality is, you might be hesitant to seek help. Well, thankfully, through HIMSS, you can get access to personalized ED treatment without ever stepping outside your door. Hims is changing men's health care by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort, yeah, get a load of that, of your own couch. Hims provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable Hardmints and Viagra and Cialis and their generics for up to 95% cheaper. You hear that? 95% cheaper. The process, it's also 100% online, so that there's no need for uncomfortable doctor visits. What you do is you just answer a series of questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option. And if prescribed, your medication, well, it ships directly to you for free. And there's no insurance needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. Now, with hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, Hims can help you find the ED option that works best for you. So start your free online visit today at hims.com/beat. That's HIMS.com/beat for your personalized ED treatment options. Again, that's hims.com/beat. The products mentioned are chewable compounded products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required, and price varies based on product and subscription plan. You ever find that perfect couch, lamp, or rug online, only to have your soul leave your body when you see the price tag? Like, who's really paying $5,000 for a sofa when half the country's struggling just to pay rent? Look, I get it. I've been there. But then I found something that's basically a middle finger to the overpriced brand names. Dupe.com. So here's the real deal. Most of the furniture that you drool over online, it's made in the same factories. Yeah, the exact same ones. The difference is some brands slap on a fancy name and then they charge you a fortune for it. Dupe.com cuts through the BS. You see, you just type dupe.com / before any product link URL and boom, it spits out identical or super similar pieces for way less, sometimes 60, 70, even 80% cheaper. It's not just furniture, it's clothes, shoes, jewelry, you name it, Dupe's got your back. And for the pros out there, interior designers, real estate agents, Dupe even has a trade program with a 10% commission on what you buy. That's hustle friendly. So why pay more for a brand name when you can get the same thing for less? Dupe.com is 100% free. There's no sign up, no catch. Just save your money and stick it to overpriced corporate greed. So go right now and type dupe, DUPE.com / before your next product link and watch the savings roll in. Start smart shopping today with dupe.com.
Welcome back to Political Beatdown. The new sponsor, Dupe, and they were very happy to be a sponsor. I saw they've been posting on social media as well. So shout out to them. As we're live right now,
and I wonder if we do POTUS Trump, and we put Dupe before that, if we can end up finding a substitute, because the stupidity that's going on right now in this country. Honestly, I have relatives that live overseas, from Canada all the way to Europe, to UK, and I speak to them, and they're like, seriously, what the fuck is happening in your country? They all used to look up to America. They all used to say, America is the beacon. It's the light on the top of the hill. And now they're all like, what the hell is going on? They come constantly to Florida. They're not coming to Florida anymore. They go to California. They're not going to California anymore. They're not coming to the United States. We're watching as our tourism from our closest neighbor, our ally, is saying, and I'm talking about the Canadians, they're saying, we're not coming to your country. All right. You could say, you could do whatever you want. We're not coming here because you guys are out of control. You're in the middle of a civil war.
Yeah, would you go? I mean, honestly, if what was happening in the United States was happening in Canada, and you had the opportunity to decide, am I going to go there or not go there? Or, maybe a vacation spot that you've gone to before. I know a year ago you recorded from Italy or something. So imagine you were, had a choice. Am I going to go there or am I not going to go there? Of course you're not going to go there. I mean, look, one, we're here because we have to be here. Number two, because I feel duty bound to fight. I'm going nowhere. I do not want to run. I want to stay. I want to fight, and I've made a commitment to the audience. As bad as it gets for me, I'm going to stay until they rip the mic from my hands. But there are implications here too, and it should not be necessarily top of mind, but like, what is going to happen with the World Cup in a year? What is going to happen with the Olympics? Because it seems like Donald Trump is doing everything in his power to try to push nations away from sending people. I did the story, Cohen, earlier this week, where you had ICE and Customs and Border Patrol were assigned as these security guards to some of the FIFA matches that are going on at the Hard Rock Coliseum in Southern Florida right now. I've heard, and we've reported on ICE boarding some of the boats and and raiding or showing up at and asking for IDs some of these events already that have been taking place in Southern Florida right now, where the mayor was there. Like, the mayor's there with the head of FIFA, asking the mayor and the head of FIFA for their papers. And it's a Republican mayor in Miami, and they should probably know who the head of FIFA is. So,
one would think so, right?
What do you say?
One would think so, that they should know. Hey, to our brigaders that are out there, every episode I always say, help Midas Touch Network and all of the platforms that are on, and fortunate enough to be on MTN, in order to hit that 5 million number.
Getting close.
And to help to grow the various, very, very close, and to help to grow all of the platforms that are affiliated. Let me tell you why I say, and I'm talking now from personal experience. When I hear Ben, who has become like a brother to me, we've been working together now for over 5.5 years. Ben was involved in my Mea Culpa podcast almost literally from day one. So yeah, I consider him and his brothers, Brett and Jordy, to be brothers as well. When I hear him turn around and say they're going to have to come after me and to pull the mic out of my hands and drag me out of here, I want you all to understand what he's putting on the line. And I have every right within which to bring this up, because it's happened to me. And I want to just remind each and every one of you, I know what it's like to be the target of this man. I know that when I showed up to sign a document, which turned out to be a counterfeit document, who goes to a federal office and is asked to sign a counterfeit document, factually violating my First Amendment constitutional right? They then handcuff, shackle me, strip me out, throw me into a freezer for 3 hours, and then put me back into solitary, making it 51 days. For 2.5 days, they didn't even feed me. You're not out, you're in. There's not even like an hour out in the yard, none of that. You're locked in and thrown away. I call it human warehousing. It is horrific. So when I hear Ben turn around and say that I am prepared to deal with the emotional anguish, with the overwhelming pain that this thing causes, he's not joking. And he's doing it for all of us, as I am, as others on this network are. So please help us to build it so we could put an end to the stupidity that is taking place right now in DC. I don't know how to impress upon each and every one of them. My vote is only one vote. So now I got Ben, and there's 2 votes, and then the brothers, there's 4 votes, and our spouse is great, 8 votes, mazel, hallelujah. Is that 8 votes going to change the outcome of the 2026 midterm elections? And the answer is no. It is you, this community, our brigaders, and the communities affiliated to the various platforms here on Midas Touch. I am begging each and every one of you, send this network, and again, my platform, other platforms that are on here, the Meiselas brothers, send it to one person. Imagine what that will do overnight, not in a week, not in a month, not in a year, as we get closer to the midterms. In one night, if you get one person that you're sitting with to subscribe and join this network, one night, 10 million people. And then you know what I do? I appeal to the same 10 million, to each and every one of you, saying, do the same thing. Now you're at 20 million. Do you understand what we're talking about here? We become the deciders of what happens in 2026. No longer do we become helpless, sitting on our hands as if, oh my God, this No King's March. Even if there's 1 million people that show up to the 1,800 or 2,000, even if there's 5 million, these aren't the 5 million people that didn't vote for Kamala Harris. We need to reach out, and that's what this platform gives us the ability to do. Reach out to somebody who was, I don't know, an independent, somebody that just couldn't vote for Kamala Harris and so held their nose and then went ahead and voted for Trump, or worse, were part of the 75 million Americans that didn't vote at all. We need to start reaching out, and that's what we do here on Midas Touch Network, on my Mea Culpa podcast, on our various Substacks, on my YouTube channel. This is what we're doing. We're trying to reach out to as many people as possible to bring them back, which sort of brings me, in closing, to my two-finger salute for the day. And it has to go to Kristi Noem for being the piece of shit asshole who legitimately sat there and watched as these folks pulled a sitting U.S. senator to the ground, handcuffed him. I know what those handcuffs feel like. I was handcuffed, shackled, thrown into a freezer. I'm sure they didn't do it to Senator Padilla, but those handcuffs, especially when they want to really teach you a lesson and they tie them real, and they affix them real tight, whereby your wrists turn black and blue. It's not a joke. The man didn't deserve it. For what? For asking a question? For turning around wanting to ask a question? No bullshit. Kristi, fuck you. On behalf of every sitting U.S. senator, on behalf of every American, on behalf of every Californian, seriously, fuck you for doing that and not speaking up and turning around and saying the simplest thing. He's a sitting U.S. senator. Please take your hands off him.
Say anything, all right, well, let me answer your question. I'm happy to answer it after the press conference. We'll meet. I hear you. But everything gets escalated like that. And you know who escalates things like that? Very weak people, right? I mean, it takes a very weak person. And I think that's a good way to round this all out, because this doesn't send a message that this is a strong man, or that it actually sends the message that this is someone who is paranoid, who is weak, who is fearful that their power is fleeting and that they're losing their power. That's what this is a behavior of. Strength in a democracy is you let somebody ask a tough question. A senator shows up, even if you believe the senator was they're doing a political stunt. You know what a confident person does? Senator, what's your issue? All right, Senator, that's how you really think about the issue. Let me tell you, that's how confident people handle this.
Mr. Senator, here's some facts to dispel the argument that you are making.
And we'll chat outside, you and me, and I'll set the record straight. So, I mean, that's what, if you were strong and you weren't there to say, I'm here to liberate LA, when LA will, liberate us from ourselves, what the hell are you even talking about? That's where strength is. And, I think it was Governor Newsom who said, with Trump, it is weakness masquerading as strength. That's what he said in the interview, to me. And frankly, all of these Trumpers and the whole right-wing podcast broosphere, when I watch these people, these are the alpha bros. I've always looked at these guys and I'm like, these people are like, when I went to high school, when I went to college, these were the people who were like the weak bullies who'd always like play the victim and want, like, these weren't the tough guys. If you were strong and you were like the cool kid in the street, to me, that was, you don't punch down at marginalized communities. You stand up to the bully. The bully was never there. The bully was the loser when I grew up. And they're saying the bully, with the help of corporate media, is like the cool kid and the alpha. It absolutely is not. And we got to stand up. We've got to push back against that stuff. And we're building that platform here, at the Midas Touch Network. I mean, when I see Donald Trump, say, in the interview that I had with Governor Newsom, he said, yeah, back on June 7th, I was trying to talk about the National Guard, and Trump was like pretending to be my friend. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, let's talk about the issue. He goes, Trump didn't want to say anything to me negative. And then Trump goes on his little post, and he's like, new scum. And it's like, all right, Donald, when you were there with the wildfires, and Newsom was there, and Newsom was taller than you, shaking your hand, putting his finger in your face and saying, say it to my face. What did Donald Trump do? Nothing. He's nothing. And the message that's being sent to China, to Putin, to Europe, to Canada, to everywhere, whether you're
to you, Ben, to the Midas Mighty, to the Brigaders, he's sending it to everyone.
Is that for him, all he wants you to do is, you're great, you're the best, wow, what a great deal. He doesn't actually care about anything other than having his ego stroke. That's literally it. So China lets him announce a deal. It's the worst deal imaginable. It's not even a deal. The U.S. caves. China says that in 6 months, we'll get to decide if we're going to withhold rare earth minerals to you in 6 months. And the U.S. is going to tax its own citizens 55%, while China taxes its own people 10%. And it's not a trade deal. It's not an agreement. It's not a deal. So the message, if you're any of these other countries, is like, just let him do a fake press release, and you can get everything you've ever wanted the United States to give up. Just give Donald Trump a stupid press release and give him a fake deal. Anyway, Cohen, we've chatted about a lot of topics. By the way, Gavin Newsom did his press conference, his address exclusively here on the Midas Touch Network on YouTube. We had 150,000 concurrent viewers watching it, and about 1.7 million in the first 24 hours. And then our other videos involving Newsom's responses to the Trump regime have garnered close to 1.5 million, 2 million views in the past 24 hours as well. So there's an appetite for people who are fighting back against the Trump regime. One other point, and we're going to see where Judge Breyer goes. In the Northern District of California Federal Court, Judge Breyer's holding that hearing right now about Trump invoking 10 U.S.C. 12406. And Breyer's like, okay, it's clearly not a rebellion or an invasion by a foreign country. And it clearly Trump is still able to effectuate the laws. So what are you saying here? And then Judge Breyer, the federal judge, says, what makes America great is the Constitution. You do realize that. And Trump's lawyer's argument, the DOJ says, Judge, it doesn't matter that you think that there's no invasion, no rebellion, or that Trump is still able to effectuate laws. All that matters, this is the DOJ argument. If Trump in his subjective mind thinks that those exist, and he in his mind believes it, you can't even question him as a judge. He believes that we're under invasion by a foreign country, so therefore we're under invasion, even if it doesn't exist. Now, that argument is the definition of dictatorship. That's what you could do that with every single law, and then no single law exists. We'll follow up on the Brother Show tonight at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific about what's going on there. So we'll follow up right there. But I want to remind everybody, subscribe to Michael Cohen's YouTube channel, on its way to 1 million subscribers, at The Michael Cohen Show. Subscribe to Michael Cohen's audio podcast, the Mea Culpa podcast, wherever podcasts are available.
Everywhere.
Substack, and then Patreon. Next week, I'm hoping I could sit in that chair longer. I made it 30 minutes today, and then I sat back on my knee, but 30 minutes was about the limit I can do it for my back. Hopefully the epidural kicks in the next 24 hours. It's helped so far a little. We will see. But then when I can actually sit for extended periods of times, I'll be back on patreon.com/political beatdown. Cohen, thank you. Beatdown Brigade, thank you.
Thank every beatdown brigader.
All of this, I want you to remember that this is all coming from a place of weakness. It's not coming from a place of strength. So now we push harder, we advocate harder, always peacefully, and we never give up. We're in this together. We will never stop fighting for you. We've got your back. We know that you've got our back. We'll see you next time on Political Beatdown.
Boom.